Welcome to SkwidVids. My name is Robert and I'm back with yet another how to install video on my 2021 Aprilia RS 660. I thought I was done with these type of videos at least for a while because I had done or thought I had done everything that I wanted or needed to do on this bike, but sometimes I do dumb shit and drop my bike in the back of the truck while I'm unloading it after a track day. There's a little bit of trial and error in here, but hopefully the purpose with these videos is one, to inspire other people like me who don't have the means to take their bikes to the shop to do your work yourself. And second, to kind of show you the process and hopefully keep you guys from having to learn the same mistakes the hard way as I have. As I mentioned earlier, I dropped my motorcycle in the back of my truck while I was unloading it after a track day. As a result, I needed to replace my switches. I could have gone with OEM, but I've never had aftermarket switches, so I figured now's a good time. This is the most race-built bike I've ever owned, so I figured why not. I opted for the Woodcraft brand switches. I'm running almost exclusively Woodcraft components on this bike. I've been using Woodcraft on my motorcycles for years. Super high quality products, best bang for the buck. Customer service is second to none, and for me, that's pretty much everything. Anytime I've ever needed a replacement part in a hurry, in time for a race, in time for a track day, I've been able to talk to a human on the phone, and I've been able to get somebody to help me very quickly. They understand the importance, the time, the money invested in racing, so they help you the best that they can. Regardless of the switch brand that you purchase, the process is going to be ultimately the same. If you still have your OEM fairings, I can't walk you through this step. If you have aftermarket fairings, you already know how to do this. But first step, you got to remove the upper fairing in order to access the wiring, which goes behind the snorkel. I forgot what else they call this. Air duct. That's what it's called. As I've said in previous videos, if you have a RS 660, get used to using Torx bits because there's a lot of them. And this air duct is no different. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts that you're going to need to access in order to get to the wiring harness. Went ahead and removed the other side. Now we'll remove these, and hopefully this thing will drop down far enough to allow me to access the cables. If not, I'm going to have to split this thing in half because there is a seam here at the top of it with some screws up in the front, which will allow me to remove it. I'm hoping this is a shortcut, but we'll find out. And of course it wasn't that easy, so I did remove it. As you can see here, I removed it from the frame. Problem is the cables run into this, so I am going to have to split it, it looks like, in order to take that off. So first step is to remove this plate that sits just underneath the windscreen. There are only these 2 screws that hold it in place. Off. As you can see, it's a mess inside of here, but we're going to need to split these, and you're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver in order to remove this. To remove your dash, all you have to do is slide it up like so, and then fuss with the clip, and boom, you're done. Super easy. Okay, now that I'm actually in here, I'm realizing I probably didn't need to pull it off of here. But that was only 4 bolts, so not that big of a deal. And you're welcome, because now you don't have to do it, because you know better. All we have to do is trace the wires. Easy! So there's 2 ways I can go about this. I can, or 3 ways. I could look it up in the manual, but who's got time for that? I can split this and just trace the wires back, or I could just look at the connectors that came on the switches and then try to match them up. Hey, would you look at that? Cool, found one. That looks about right to me. Cool, found the other. Sweet, so it's these gray ones here, I'm gonna assume. Don't quote me on that just yet. I think what I'm gonna do is just try to disconnect these switches, plug in the new ones, if I can figure out how this goes. Oh, dummy. It's this way. So opposite side, little flathead screwdriver or anything, lift up, pop it open. Oh, they're all in this sleeve, so I'm gonna have to cut this sleeve open, I think. Sweet. But before we do any of that, I'm just gonna try to plug the new ones in and see if I got it right. Repeat the same on this side. Plug in the new ones. I promise I know how plugs work. There we go. There we go. I'm gonna plug in the dash. I'm gonna let it hang there all ugly, but we're just testing right now to see if we got it right. We're gonna put it in the run position. I heard something. We're gonna try firing it up. And now let's press any button. Plus, minus, plus, minus. Okay, I can see the traction control, the ATC on the left. When I press up, down, it works. Pit limiter comes on. Beautiful. All right, so we found out which wires they are. Now I just need to remove the OEM switches and the wiring. Fun stuff. Oh, damn it, I am gonna have to take this off in order to remove them. Well, not quite as easy as I was hoping it was going to be. I am going to have to remove this air duct. And luckily I already took the screws off, so I am going to... I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a sledgehammer. Be right back. I've been talking to myself for the past 10 minutes because my battery died. So what I figured out is that I do have to split this tube in half, which I already have, the air duct rather. So I did split it in half. I think there's 6 screws on each side. And here's the other side of it. So there's these screw holes that you have to remove in order to split it. And the reason why you have to split it is because the wire runs underneath the air duct and in front of the frame. So I'll show you what that looks like once I get this mounted up. So before you disassemble your OEM switch cluster, you might want to make a mental note or a visual note of where it is on the bar. If you like the OEM position, then you're definitely going to want to make a mental note. For me, the biggest thing is probably the gap between the handlebar, because you want to be able to easily access the buttons from a pretty natural position while you're on the bike. And the other thing would be kind of how far forward or how far back they're tilted. So those are things to keep in mind before you disassemble it. There are 2 Phillips heads screws on your OEM switch, one here, one on the opposite side that you're going to have to remove in order to disassemble this. I'm not going to bore you with that, so we're going to skip ahead. And of course, it wasn't that easy. So I took the 2 screws out, and I see another screw here holding this plate in place. I'll bet you money it's a friggin' Torx bit. And just like I suspected, it is a Torx bit. And the Torx bits that I have are too small to fit into that space below it. So the next best option is to get an Allen head there. I don't usually advise doing this because you could damage the Allen head, but as long as it doesn't take too much torque to remove it, you should be okay. So we'll see how much damage I cause to this thing. Okay, we got that removed. Let me zoom out a little bit. The risky run in using a Allen head on a Torx bit is that you can round off the Torx bit, but I'm not really worried about it because I don't ever intend to use that thing again. All right, zip tie snipped. Now we can remove the wire. And we can put the new one through. So we're just gonna have it follow the same path as the OEM. All right, one side is done, and you're just going to repeat the process on this side, same as before. There's 2 screws, both Phillips head, one on the front side, one on the back side that you need to remove. Okay, got it removed. Now I'm going to go ahead and mount up the new Woodcraft one. I'm going to go ahead and thank Woodcraft in advance for not using Torx bits. Before I tighten it, I like to fit them up. Make sure that it's in a good position. then I tighten it, and I typically use Loctite with damn near anything. Okay, I have the new one loosely mounted on here. I'm gonna put the non-Torx bits, just good old-fashioned Allen. Come on, camera, you can do it. Allen head into the back like so, just to keep the back on for now. Kind of set the position or get a idea of where I want it. And then I will Loctite it. Before I clean up the rat's nest in front of this thing, I'm just going to test the functionality of these buttons before I go through all the trouble of trying to remount everything. So, if I can get the dash here in a way that's not going to reflect. So you probably won't be able to see it on the camera because of the reflection, but I'm just going to check plus and minus. I'm going to hit the run button. I'm going to start it quickly. Good enough for me. Now that I have the lines running where I want to go, I think I'm just going to button this back up the same way it came apart. So you could spend some time and probably route these lines better. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to do that right now. So I might come back to this at another time and just kind of clean this stuff up. But all of this was crammed up in this space, kind of like that. So I'm just going to probably put it back together the same way it came apart. I think the easiest thing to do is probably assemble one side or reattach one side back to the frame like I did here, just in front of your triple clamp. There's a screw there, and then just on the bottom above your lower triple, you'll have these screws here that you're going to attach back into the frame. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to fasten these two together once I get the lines cleared up, all pulled through and not tangled up as much. Now that we're all attached at the frame, we could start reinserting the screws that join these two pieces together. But again, just make sure that there's not too much resistance, because if there is, then there's probably a wire caught in there. These pieces went together fairly easily, and now that I have all the screws attached, I'm just going to reconnect the dash, slide it into place. I said slide it into place. Oh, there we go. And now we can reattach this piece. If you plan on purchasing some Woodcraft switches of your own, I'm going to leave the link down below. Please make sure to let me know if you found this video helpful. They require a lot of work to make, and your feedback helps keep me motivated.